Next on Worcester News tonight, the Save Notre Dame Alliance pitching an idea to the city on how to save the historic building. Plus, we have an inside look at the training lifeguards go through to protect swimmers. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Bottary. As the early stages of demolition move on, the Save Notre Dame Alliance is continuing their battle to end it. The group will be bringing yet another idea on how to save the building to City Council. And even though the city has declined to pursue the property, the Alliance is hoping a new concept can change their mind. Our Cam Jandro joins us now live with the details. Cam?
Anna, it has been a very long battle for this church, but the group says they're not going to stop until the walls come down. Now, they'll be taking their concerns in front of City Council again next week, and they say this is a pretty interesting proposal.
The Save Notre Dame Alliance has a new pitch on how to save the historic building, one which they believe could be a home run.
If the Pawtucket Red Sox come to ask Larry Lucchino, the president of the Red Sox, and or somebody from the franchise to help us save the church.
The former church is still in the early stages of demolition, but the Alliance claims it wasn't given the proper review under the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act and hasn't received the proper review by the state's Historic Commission.
Part of what keeps the lawsuit going is that so far we've had misinterpretation of the MEPA regulations, and that needs to be corrected.
A new petition submitted to City Council by Alliance member Randy Feldman asks the city to consider a partnership with the Paw Sox to help redevelop the church. Feldman says the funds for the church should be available even without the team coming to Worcester.
If the Red Sox don't bring their minor league affiliate here, to take some of that money that was going to be used by the city to allure them and to make this into a public garden.
Demolition has been described as imminent for weeks, which has group members on edge every day.
I think we're living on borrowed time right now. Like, we all assume that the walls would have come down by now.
It becomes less and less likely that we're going to see this building become a repurposed indoor building. But it could still be an amazing centerpiece for a public garden.
Now, Feldman will be taking the petition in front of City Council on Tuesday night, and he's also hoping to convince City Manager Ed Augustus to start talking with Paw Sox representatives on this issue. Anna?
Thanks, Cam. A skate park in the city is closed without any warning this week. City crews moved in and started taking it apart. City Manager Edward Augustus says the emergency order was issued at the recommendation of Chief of Police, Fire Chief, and the Commissioner of Inspectional Services. Augustus says there were life safety and public health concerns, including fights and a stabbing. He notes during a fire this week, access was blocked due to skate ramps. In a statement, Augustus says, "I'm sympathetic to the skateboarding community, and I'm committed to meeting with our youth and advocates in the very near future to identify a safe and suitable location for them to enjoy." Now, local skaters we spoke with say this demolition of Worcestershire DIY skate park came as a shock and say they received no warning. Chris Matthews says he and his friends have spent the past 11 years working to further the development of the skate park. He says they had major plans to legitimize it and says their main issue is the lack of communication from the city. For the first time this year, Worcester crews were out Thursday spraying an area of the city for mosquitoes. After collecting positive samples for West Nile virus in Worcester and Auburn this month, the city says it's something they had to do. City officials say spraying is the last line of defense when it comes to combating the West Nile virus and mosquitoes in the city. In late spring, they started to take other preventative measures as well.
We have, through this project, put briquettes within the catch basins to prevent adult mosquitoes from breeding and laying eggs within the catch basins in the sewer drains within the streets of the city to prevent more mosquitoes from establishing in the city.
The city is also reminding people to remember the 5 Ds to avoid mosquito illnesses. They include dawn, dusk, deep, dress, and drain. It can sometimes be a difficult job, and you have to make decisions in a matter of seconds. Worcester lifeguards say they go through extensive training. As our Brittany Schaefer explains, recent drownings across the state have them sending an important message.
The lifeguards at Crompton Park Pool take their job seriously. They say it takes weeks of training, numerous certifications, and sometimes even saving lives. It's a job requiring focus.
You just really have to have patience and pay attention to the water and your surroundings.
And for lifeguards at city pools and lakes, you need to complete extensive training.
We did 22 times back and forth, so 11 laps usually. Takes about 40 minutes depending on the lifeguard.
We actually pick up someone at the bottom of the pool that weighs a lot. We learn CPR and first aid kit.
18-year-old Karina Herrera has been a lifeguard for 2 years. She says the Crompton Park Pool sees hundreds of children every day during the summer, and their job gets busy.
I save someone about once a day. Like one victim I saved that was drowning, all I seen was her eyes. And when I picked her up, she came on me so loving, and I was so happy that I saved her.
To know you saved a life, especially because most of the time it's a little kid that doesn't know how to swim. You see them be so thankful and they feel so comforting around you, especially as an older sister. It makes me feel as if they're like, wow, I just did something. I made a difference.
9 people have drowned in Massachusetts in the past few weeks. Crystal Mercado says as a lifeguard, it's difficult news to hear.
It's very triggering, but even to know that it happened after hours does worry us because it makes me feel as if we're not spreading the word enough to not come in without lifeguards.
That honestly breaks my heart. And I always tell the children here, do not pool hop, don't go anywhere where you don't see lifeguards.
With the recent drowning deaths, the city is urging residents to only swim when a lifeguard is present, even if you are an experienced swimmer. At the Crompton Park Pool, Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
The city manager's Housing First Task Force releases a report on 4-month finding to address homelessness in Worcester. The task force is hoping to end chronic homelessness in the city, which is defined as someone who's homeless for at least 365 days. There were 0 chronic homeless in 2011, but the number has since crept back up to about 100. The task force's report includes 26 recommendations, including things like more affordable housing, supportive services, and real-time data. The estimated cost is $4 to $6 million to rehouse everyone. Exact sources have not been identified.
Whether it be the extremes of the summer heat or the extremes of the winter cold, I think all our hearts ache when we see somebody who's out in those kind of conditions, and we need to do everything we can as a community to make sure none of our fellow citizens live in those kind of conditions.
A copy of the report will go to City Council next Tuesday. A kennel business in Oxford receives a court order to not sell dogs not bred on the property, and they can no longer sell pet supplies. It's not the first time Laughlin Kennel has been under fire. In 2016, the kennel was ordered to cease and desist all kennel operations, but the owners appealed the decision. With the latest case, owners Robert and Bridget Fink are still able to breed and raise dogs they own on the property. In a statement, Roberts says, "We've received the decision and will be meeting with the town as it instructs. We're exploring our options and expect to appeal. In the meantime, we remain open for business." The decline of a popular insect is concerning for some researchers. Honeybees pollinate most of the food supply we eat, and without them, the result could be catastrophic. Our Chandler Walsh has the story.
The buzz of honeybees getting softer. The USDA says the state saw about a 50% average winter loss in bees in 2017. Local beekeepers say it's a catastrophic decline.
We won't have food and the wonderful vegetables and fruits that we love if we don't have the bees.
Holden beekeeper and retired entomologist Richard Callahan says the decline is due to parasites, viruses, and pesticides like neonicotinoids. Callahan studies the effect of low levels of pesticides on bees.
You coat the seeds, then the whole plant, the roots, the stems, the leaves, the flowers, the nectar, the pollen, is all poisoned. Insects that feed on it get dosed.
Honeybees are the most important insect when it comes to agriculture. Without these little guys, we wouldn't have about a third of the food we eat.
Agriculture would be in very serious trouble. What you'd have is cereals to eat, You really wouldn't have a whole lot else.
Both Callahan and 37-year beekeeper Barbara McPhee say people in the area can help the bee population by reducing or stopping their use of pesticides on their lawns.
You know, sometimes chemicals are needed for a certain problem, but use them sparingly and be sure you have the problem before you use the chemical.
Callahan is hoping a House bill to protect Massachusetts pollinators gets passed. The bill would limit the use of neonicotinoids to only licensed users like farmers, landscapers, and pest control.
Which would make a huge difference, I think, to insect populations in Massachusetts.
Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
A new partnership between the Regional Environmental Council and Fallon Health is set to help promote healthy living for Worcester area seniors. Friday, dozens of seniors showed cased gardens they've been working on at the Worcester Senior Center. A more than $10,000 grant from Fallon has supported 3 community gardens throughout the city. The Regional Environmental Council says these gardens give elders a place to grow plants and produce, which they couldn't do before.
Physical activity and socialization. All of the new beds that we've put in through this grant, we've made sure are ADA accessible so that they're easier for seniors to use. And really that's what we hear from folks the most, is having the opportunity for the community, and the time together and the time outside is so important and so helpful.
Gardens at the Worcester Senior Center are maintained by the Chinese Elder Group.